There's a book in Judaism written by the second Rebbe of Chabad that's called Pokeach Ivrim. And they say this book was written to one specific Chassid. And this Chassid was a Baal Tshuva of the first Rebbe of Chabad. First Rebbe of Chabad. Okay, and the story goes like this. There was a Torah genius scholar. His name was Rav Yosef. And Rav Yosef was he sat and learned, he knew everything, knew all the words of the Torah. And he went into Yechidut. I think it was by the first Rebbe of Chabad, but it could be by the second Rebbe of Chabad. He went into Yechidut and he just asked for advice, how to serve God better. And the Rebbe told him that if someone offers you to be a rabbi in a big community, is you certainly are able, you certainly are capable, but don't take it. It's better you should be a Bal Agala. It's better that you should be a wagon driver. Now, in those days, a wagon driver was not like a taxi driver today. Taxi driver, you have to know something. You have to know directions. You have to know. In those days, a wagon driver basically was you go from one town to the other. There was only one road. You drove, you looked at the backside of your horse, and you drove, and that was it. And you had to know a few things, how to change a wheel or whatever, how to feed the horse. So Rabbi Yosef went home and he told his wife what the Rebbe said, and she said strange. And sure enough, a couple of days later came a very honorable group of men, a contingent from some city, and they said, "We've heard about you and we would like you to be the rabbi of our city." So he was very happy, a major city. I don't remember what this name was in the story. And he told his wife, and his wife said, "You have to be a wagon driver." And he didn't really want to, but the Rebbe told him that he had to. So he said, "Listen, you got to buy a wagon. I don't have any money to buy a wagon." So his wife said, "Don't worry about it. We'll go down to the wagon drivers." And I don't know how to be a wagon driver. I know how to learn Torah. And so they went down to where the wagon drivers were, and they asked how much it would cost to buy a coach with horses and to have a short course on how to be a wagon driver. So they gave him all the prices and everything like that. And his wife pawned in all of her jewelry in order to go down and buy a wagon, a wagon or whatever it is, a carriage, whatever, and horses, and to pay another one of these wagon drivers to teach him. And so he did. So it did. And this Rabbi Yosef, I guess he must have been I probably wasn't an old person. He was a big genius. So let's say he was in his 30s, maybe, or something like that. So there was a wagon driver. The problem is that the whole day he would sit and learn, and he would teach, and people would ask questions. And now he was just, his only companion was the backside of his horse. He's just watching the whole day. And he has to feed the horse, he has to groom the horse. And the other wagon drivers, they sort of had mercy on him. So they would give him simple, the customers. They would provide him with customers. And so one day he's doing this for a while, months, I don't know how long it is, and he's really miserable. He's really miserable. I mean, he's doing his job. He's doing what the Rebbe told him to do, but he sees absolutely no benefit in this. And he's thinking to himself, maybe something bad would happen to me if I wasn't maybe this. But nevertheless, he was suffering. It was terrible. And this is what my whole life is going to be. I'm going to be a wagon driver. Try this. The Rebbe told me that the Rebbe told me to do it. So one day he gets a customer, a rich guy, and he says, I want to drive far away, a non-Jew. And he's dressed very, well. Said, I have a 2-day journey. So Rav Yosef said, listen, and he says that I'm in a big hurry. Let's go now. So Rav Yosef says, okay, I know how to get to that place, and I can take you, but we are not going to set out tomorrow morning, first thing in the morning. We're not going to set out. He said, but that's what I have to do. I'm in a big hurry. I have to go to this meeting. He said, listen, you'll find somebody else. The city where we're going to, I know where it is, and it's no problem. You can easily find another wagon driver. You just, we'll stop in a hotel. You go to the lobby of the hotel, you go to the front desk, and they'll find you another wagon driver. He'll be happy to take you. But I says, well, what's wrong with you? So, well, I pray. In the morning, I pray. In the morning, I take a half an hour, and I pray. That's what I'm going to do, and I'm not going to relinquish that. If we start driving, then when am I going to pray? I won't have any calm mind. So he says, but don't worry, don't worry. You can pay me for this, and so sure enough, they go to this hotel wherever they're staying, and he says, in the morning you can get me another driver if you want. Yes, the owner of the hotel says sure. So Rabbi Yosef gets the money for his 1 day journey, and he wakes up in the middle of the night, and says what's called Tikkun Chatzot. Tikkun Chatzot is a prayer. It's basically Psalms, and you say for the mourning the destruction of the temple. So he says this Tikkun Chatzot prayer, and it's written in Siddur. There's not too many people that say it nowadays, but nevertheless, he used to say it. So he says the Tikkun Chatzot prayer, and then afterwards, maybe he sleeps for a few minutes or something like that, and then he wakes up and he puts on his tefillin and he starts to pray in the room, and he finishes prayer, and he, obviously he's going to go back to the town where he was, opens up the door, and there is this fellow, his customer, is sitting there crying, weeping, sitting and weeping. So he said, what happened? Did somebody rob you? This and this. And the man is saying, he said, no, I'm a Jew. And I heard you last night praying that midnight prayer. I remember that's what my father used to do. I remember that my father used to also pray that prayer. And I left the whole thing when I was just as soon as I became 15, 16, I left all of Judaism. I left everything. And I became very successful. And I have nothing now to do with Judaism, but I heard that all of a sudden it woke up in my mind, in my memory, my father. And since then, I've never really experienced anything as real as that. I want you to give me a pair of tefillin, and I want to pray. So he said, okay. I said, what about your job? He says, forget about the journey, forget about the business trip. I want to pray. He prayed, he wept, or whatever it is. And afterwards he said, okay, I'm going with you. I want to go to see a Rebbe. And he took him back to the Mittler Rebbe. It was the Mittler Rebbe. He took him back to the Mittler Rebbe, to the Rebbe. And the Mittler Rebbe gave him a whole path of how to return to be a Jew. And that was the book, Pokeach Ivrim. You can buy the book, Pokeach Ivrim. It's very interesting. It's a bit sort of, how do you say, severe in the beginning, but that was the book that was written. So in other words, the Rebbe made this Rabbi Yosef, they say, lose hours and hours of precious Torah learning, and who knows how much benefit that would have done to the world if he would have learned that Torah and done those things. But nevertheless, to bring one Jew back to Judaism, it was worth it. Of course, this is the Rebbe's calculations, and so we have to do it now. So it comes to show us how precious it is for a Jew to wake up his Judaism and start doing Torah and the commandments. And that's what the job of a Rebbe is to direct us how to do this properly. And then afterwards, the Rebbe said, okay, your job is finished. You can sell your wagon, and now you can be a rabbi in a city if you want. And he became a rabbi in a city. Have a good day with Mashiach. Now, see you all tomorrow, 8:15.